I don't go to see a film because I wanted to learn something. I want to feel something. It's more about emotions and about unconsciousness. You learn from the unconscious of the maker to your own unconscious. And that's the treasure you have then. Bergman was my master from the beginning. So to make a film about a master, it's always a little bit intimidating. No? And I had the feeling I'm not on the top. I'm not good enough to make that. But then the producers are asking me and pushing me, and they said, you're the right one. And then to have advice, I went to Stockholm, to the Bergman Foundation, and I said, what can I do? Because there were so many things already done. There are so many documentaries about him already, written, rewritten, everything. So what can I add? There's nothing to add. And they said, do it very personal, because you knew him and he loved your work, and so do it in this way, and mainly go to Munich, where he was staying for 7 years. He worked in Munich, and you were in Munich in the same moment, and speak about that, because this is a period nobody knows about.
Und als Ingmar Bergman uns besuchen kam, haben wir uns an den Tisch gesetzt, er in die Mitte, rechts und links Volker, und er hat unsere beiden Hände genommen und gedrückt. Während des ganzen Gesprächs hat er sie nicht losgelassen.
When I asked Olivier Assayas, who knew him very well because they did an interview for 5 days together with Stig Björkman, who's also in my film, but he didn't know that what was he doing in Munich. So that was a new aspect. And the main aspect, sure, is that the filmmaker is speaking about a filmmaker now. And that is perhaps the exception of the film, because I never did a documentary before. And I always did films about women. And that's my first film about a man. So it's all new.
Hier hat alles für mich begonnen. Mit einem düsteren Himmel, mit einem schwarzen Vogel.
You know, when I saw the Seventh Seal of Ingmar Bergman, that was in the early 60s. And immediately seeing this film, I had the wish that once in my lifetime I would like to have this possibility to express myself. No, because you could put everything in a film. We could put art, paintings, music, psychology. I read a lot of Freud, a book about Freud in this time. So I had the feeling I could put everything what was in my interest to put in one work. No? But then I had to wait 17 years until I could do the first film. And after I saw the films of Bergman, I decided, I think it was more unconscious than conscious, to become an actress, to be already in a certain way near of cinema, even if there was not yet the new German wave that started only in 1965. But when it started, then I tried to get into this atmosphere, to make films with Fassbinder and with Volker Schlöndorff, and I learned a lot of them because I was not in a film school. I learned by acting and by doing and by looking at films. And in the time in Paris, you could go, you bought one ticket and you could go for the whole afternoon and see always the same film. So that was also a chance you don't have today. But today you have DVD and you have all these other helpful things to see a film again and again. But in this time it was not like that. So it was by acting that I learned and since it was a wish from the beginning to become a director, acting was for me only a method or help to enter in this country of cinema, no? And in the moment I did my first films, I arrived there where I wanted to go, and I never acted again. So it's not like there are so many actresses. They are going on also acting, even if they become directors. For me, it was finished. It was not easy. It was even very difficult to make this jump, because I was then already well known as an actress, and I did several films with Volker Schlöndorff, and we did the script together. And even for Katharina Blum, we did the direction together. But when I came up with my first film and I tried to get money for it, they said, but why you want to change? You are such a good actress. Stay with acting, and Volker and you can write the script together, and Volker will be the director. And I said, no, I want to do my own film, my own vision of the world. That's another vision than this of men, no? So that was really difficult to get in the first film. Then I had a little success with my first film, with the Berlinale in Germany, and then I could go on. But the step, it was, in the time it was not. For me, the only woman filmmaker for me was a sort of example and also an encouragement was Barbara Loden with Wanda. And this film I saw in New York in the early 70s. And since she was also an actress before with Elia Kazan, and then she stepped to be also an actress in her film, but the director. And I thought, oh my God, that's possible. She was an actress, I was an actress. Perhaps I would have the possibility or the chance to do the same thing. When I started to make films as a woman, I always had the feeling, since I have the chance, and so many other women haven't had this chance to make films, I'm a little bit responsible to speak to women and to be the voice of women. And since I lived all my first years only with my mother, and then my father died when I was 10, but we were always living together. So I had no man in my family who was with me during my childhood. And my mother was a very independent woman, and she was very, not financially, she was rather poor. We both were very poor, but she was a thinking woman, and she encouraged me to be myself and to speak about my wishes and to be revolutionary in a certain way, and to defend myself. So I was not living up in a family where there's a certain hierarchy where the father is on the top and then comes the mother and then come the children. So I was always equal with her. Maybe that helped me when I made films to be on my own and to speak about women. But then I lived also in Germany, and in a certain time and with a certain going back to the past for Marion and Julian. And so I made it half historical, half political, half feminist, sort of feminist cinema, but then also very much an inside. And that links me to Bergman again, because he's looking inside himself and inside, and that was my main aim, was perhaps that, only that you can see it in every film. You see sometimes only the outside story, but when you look really precisely, then you see that it's all also about existentialism, about human condition. They are eternal. That's not only linked to a certain time or a certain historical moment.
Bergmans Filme haben mich immer begleitet. Doch als ich gefragt wurde, ob ich nicht einen Film über ihn machen wolle, zögerte ich. Bis ich mich daran erinnerte, dass auch für ihn einer meiner Filme wichtig war.
Ja, das ist jetzt hier die Liste von Bergman, die er zusammengestellt hat für das Göteborger Filmfestival 1994. Die hatten ihn gebeten, eine Liste von Filmen zu machen, die in seinem Leben wichtig waren. Und es waren 11, die er zusammengestellt hat, und unter anderem eben Die bleibende Zeit von mir, was mich sehr, sehr, sehr gefreut hat. Ich bin die Jüngste oben, und ich bin die Jüngste und die Einzige, die noch am Leben ist. Alle anderen sind schon tot, Bergman ist schon tot. Also ich bin noch da, hoffentlich noch ein bisschen. when he told me that he liked very much my film. He told me that he was in a depression, and when he saw it the first time, and then he decided not to go on with filmmaking. And when he saw my film, I gave him courage to go on. And afterwards he did Fanny and Alexander. I don't know that if it was really linked like that. He wanted also to make me a compliment. And in the way, in the beginning, I thought it was only a compliment. But then when he gave this list to the Göteborg Film Festival 2 or 3 years later, and I found my name on the list, then I understood that it was really earnest and it was really sincere what he said. And sure, then I asked myself, but why he put this film? Why it was so important, this film, for him? And I think the main character, or one of the main characters, is a pastor, and he's very, very strict with his children. So all this background, where the two sisters are coming from, it's the same in my film. There are two sisters. In his life, they were two brothers. So this thing, I think, was one side of the film he was interested in, and on the other side, the two women, and this conflict between these women and going close to the faces, and sometimes there's one image where they are sitting in front of each other, and there's a glass in between, and all of a sudden they become one. And so that is the moment I'm sure he was fond of. Yeah. After the film, so many people told me or asked me, but that's Persona. You imitated Persona. And the strange thing is that until this very moment, I didn't see Persona. So we were linked in a certain way to each other. I'm not the genius, he was, but we were linked in a certain way of looking to the inside of the persons there, no? And so I think I took it from him, but it was also inside of me. So it was not an imitation. It was just the same feeling for the human being. Of 3 films in the beginning, I did 2 about sisters. And everybody asked me, why? You have no sister. Why you are doing films about sisters? And I couldn't answer. It was stronger than me. And in the second film, which was called Sisters or Balance of Happiness, one of the sisters is called Anna, and the other is Maria. And during writing, I always thought, I have to change that. It's so biblical and it's so old-fashioned, and I couldn't. It was stronger than me. And then I did Marion and Julian, about sisters again. And after this film, my mother died. And after her death, it's a woman who came up with a letter first, but then I met her, saying that she's my sister. And I never knew about her. I was raised of my mother as a unique child. So, and she is 15 years older than me, and she was given away to adoption because my mother was very poor in this moment, and she never told me about this other child. And so I think unconsciously she gave me the message, because when I was born and also afterwards, I think she thought a lot about this other child, and I get it telepathically from her. And I went also because I had the feeling that's crazy. I went to a psychoanalyst and I asked her what is the meaning that because my second name is Maria and the second name of my sister is Anna. So I put it in the film before I knew that I had a sister. And she explained me that my mother gave it to me, like a sort of telepathy, that I knew it already. So that is the story of sisters, not only because I wanted to tell, about sisterhood or women's of feminism or political. That was the side of the unknown in me now. So explain it. I did a film with Volker before, and we wrote it together, but that was Free Woman, and I was the main character, and I had to say my name, and my name in the film was Elisabeth, and Elisabeth was the name of my mother. And then I had to say my birthday, and I throw out this date. And when my sister afterwards saw this film, and she said, "But you know my birthday, or the day of the birthday." She's much older than me, "But you know it." "No, I didn't know it." And I chose this date. So it was the name of my mother. I played the role, and I chose the date of my sister. So in one person, I put us all the three together. So that can be only that must be something I knew. Because normally the interviewers are asking, why? And they search for rational reasons. Because you're living in this country, because the politics are like this. There's so many things which are totally irrational. And that's good, that you can express yourself in this way with cinema. No? That's a chance for everybody who makes cinema, that these things are coming up. And you get free also from things. And Bergman did his films like this. He freed himself of so many bad dreams, depressions, and things were dangerous for him, and he could do it in the films. I feel it like that too. You not even know always that it comes from there. No? Afterwards you understand why you had to do in this very moment exactly this film. And maybe to know me, or to get in touch with me, and not only with me as a German or as a political filmmaker or as a woman, just as a human being. The most personal, Sisters or Ballads of Happiness. It's the film, perhaps, which is telling most of myself. The film is named Searching For, and everybody asks me, what did you find? But I found things I think they are also important for me, because every film you see of him is a sort of mirror for his own life. And when you see all his films, and then you know where he was in the moment he made the film. Sure, I found things I didn't know before, but fortunately I didn't find him totally, because every real artist must stay as a secret also in the end. No. And he wouldn't have liked that I say, now I know you perfectly. No. It's always only an approach, and it's approach to somebody, and then he's a reflection to yourself. And so you search him or the other person, but you search also yourself. And what did you find for yourself? And that also remains a sort of unknown country. I think two unknown countries are reflecting each other, but they stay a little bit secret in the end. So I think that's the best, making art, not to explain everything.